Hi everyone, to another Hangout with SoulBrix. That's the name that I'm going to give like these little segments. I would like to talk about 3 topics this week: singing, the current project that I'm working on, and the setup, the new setup that I've been kind of testing out. Starting with the singing, at the end of last week, I've uploaded a new video, which was me singing Sweet Dreams by Eurythmics. I've recreated the song using my Digitech, which is right here. And basically, I sang the whole song over it. It was quite an experience. One of the things that I would like to do was kind of like having a live set where I could sing some songs. I'm not a trained singer, by the way. I like it. I think, I can do it well for certain types of music and certain types of voices. But clearly, I think that the Sweet Dreams was not perfect. At the time, I didn't really think about that. It kind of sounded okay to me. But listening back to it, it's not perfect. But I'm still quite pleased with the overall result, so to speak, because the whole process went well, because I was mixing and changing patterns using the Digitech all live while I was singing the song. So it was kind of like a practice for something, like I was saying, like if I want to create a live set where I sing, I have to do changes on the fly. So I kind of need to practice that. The choice of songs maybe needs to be improved. It was still really fun to recreate the song. I was able to recreate the synths and actually do a guitar part. If you listen to it, there's a guitar part, but I didn't record any guitar. It's all done through MIDI and samples, but I think it turned out really okay. Overall, I'm pleased with the results. Next time, I'll probably be more thoughtful about the song choice. Maybe even take some lessons, some singing lessons, maybe. I think that would be cool. It's something that I would like to take a deeper dive in. Maybe first some online courses and maybe then an actual teacher. But yeah, there's so much going on at this moment that it's just one more idea that I have in the box that may or may not come true, right? Yeah, let's see what the future holds in terms of singing. For the second topic, I'm actually working on a project, like a song that I want to release. It came out of nowhere. I basically come up with the idea last weekend. I was just messing around with this new software that I bought from iKey Multimedia. It's Sample Tank. So it has like 500 gigabytes of samples, like all types of samples, like guitars, basses, pianos, synths, voices, weird stuff. It's like it's a whole world of sounds in there, and I just took a dive and searched through it, and I came up with this idea with a bass guitar, like a bass guitar written, and all of a sudden it started making sense. I put the pieces together little by little. I now have a track that is quite different from what I've been posting on here on this channel. Like I've been posting house related things, or even more hip-hop-ish, chill kind of types of sounds, like either slow or with smooth sounds. That's completely different. And it's a callback to my origins as a music producer, because when I first started back in April 2010, I started because I listened to Justice for the first time. And if you don't know, Justice is a French duo. They produce, like, nowadays it's more softish, but at the time they released Cross, which was their first album in 2008, I believe. And it's if rock and electro had a child. It's just super distorted, super heavy, super impactful. I was playing this game, Grand Theft Auto 4, on the soundtrack. One of the radios, it had Waters of Nazareth by Justice, and that blew my mind. Up until then, I never really cared about electronic music, and from that point on, it kind of like introduced me to another side of electronic music. It could have the power of rock, but in a more digital way, in a heavier way even. There's heavy rock, and heavy rock is heavy, but it's different when you have like distorted synths. It's a whole different type of heavy to me. And with the beats, with the sample usage that they have, with the callbacks to disco and everything, it kind of blew my mind at the time, and it made me start to want to look into, wow, I just look at the sequence of words. It made me want to produce my own things. And at the time, I had a few friends working in Ableton. They were learning Ableton, and they kind of introduced me to that software. That was my first DAW. And one thing led to another, and I started recreating all of those distorted distorted synths and beats and everything. No real big success, I'll admit, because I had no musical training and apparently it's not, a gift of mine. But I spent many hours, many late night hours working on these distorted synths. I even made a couple of songs. I actually made one song that is currently on Spotify that's from that era. And from then on, I kind of stopped doing the distorted things. I stopped producing altogether. Yeah, that's kind of like my story. It doesn't matter. With this new idea, it brought me back to those times. I started playing with distorted synths. I started playing with distorted beats and everything, samples. This song will be more sample based, more of that kind of like a disco sound. There's a certain type of disco in it. I'll actually put like a little sneak peek right here, so I'll just freeze in time. Hope I don't look too dumb. But yeah, this is the song, and it's kind of like consuming all of my time. I'm between jobs at the moment. I got laid off from my previous company. I have mixed feelings about the situation because there's, the instability of not having a job. It's like it's harsh, and it's a hard thing to think about, having to look for a new job and all of that. But at the same time, it enabled me to go back into this mode where I can spend most of my days working with music or working with software, exploring sound, exploring plugins, new plugins, messing about with these things. It's been creatively so satisfying to be able to just spend, some actual good time just messing about this hours and hours. It's just, it brings me so much joy. So I have mixed feelings about all of this situation, and this will change in the future unless, this channel makes it really big and I'm able to live off of it. Hey, who knows? But for the time being, I'm trying to just enjoy as much as I can of this time that I have right now. Back to the point of this, I've been spending way too much time on this, and I haven't been creating anything else. That's why I haven't been posting shorts of kind of new, little beats that I have done, because I've been spending hours and hours just working on this track, and I've been trying to work on specifically that heavy distortion. I want it to sound good. I want it to sound clean and controlled, and not, very abrasive or too much abrasive. It's always going to be a little abrasive because that's the type of sound that I want, but I want it to sound controlled as well. All of this, it's been great because I've been remembering things that I did like 10 years ago. I've been learning new things, how to work correctly with EQs, how to work correctly with compression. It seems like I never really learned how to handle compression, and now I'm actually learning how to work with it and make it sound good, how it all kind of fits together in it to produce the type of sound that I like, that I enjoy, and that I want for my tracks. It doesn't mean that I'm only going to produce this type of sound in the future. I still want to produce house and more soft things, because I do want to play in bars and things, and this type of song, this Justice, is not really meant for that, And for the type of sound that I want to do, where I can mix it on the fly, change it on the fly, it has to be something softer and more controlled, and not like produced as much as a Justice kind of like track, because it takes a lot of time, because there's a lot of things to handle. The synths alone, it's dozens of plugins stacked together, and if you mess with the setting on one, you have to be careful because it may screw up with the settings on another plugin. And I basically have like 5 synths all happening simultaneously and they have to be controlled together. It's not easy to produce a track like this. But if I manage to do it, and if I manage to make it sound like the way that I like and that I want, it's going to be like a big accomplishment for me as a producer. This is something that I want, that I've always wanted in my lifetime as a producer, is to create something that resembles Justice, you know, because, and I know that I should try to come up with my own sound, but since I've started with listening to Justin and wanting to replicate it, it's like it's a milestone. It means that I achieved something, because it's really, I think it's really hard. At least for me, it is. No experience in music, no experience with music software, and being able to kind of like go through the motions and learn how to work with all of these things together to come up with my own song. It's like it's the holy grail for me, if I'm honest. So let's see how it turns out. There's still a lot of work to be done on this track. Like I said, specifically on the synth distortions, I want them to sound good. I also need to work on the whole track, trying to make sense of it. But yeah, I was listening to this yesterday in the living room. It's just like, what? This has something. This has potential. And for me, that is like that. It's such a rush to feel something like that, right? So let's see how it turns out. But on the other hand, I'll try not to focus too much time on it. I think, or not too much time, that's not what I mean, but like, I don't want to spend all of my time that I have on a day just working on this track. I feel like I should be doing something else musically. Like, I'm not even talking about house stuff and everything, because I've been doing that still. It's just that musically, I don't want to be stuck on this, and I actually need to make this channel grow. I want this channel to grow, and for that I need to provide content. So I need to, you know, create the videos that I want to create, about tutorials, about little experiment things that I do, all of that can make it interesting for you to kind of go back and watch what I have to say and watch what I want to show you. I'll manage all of this, try to make sense of it and make it fun for everyone. Now for the third topic, and yeah, I'll try to make this quick. I don't want to take a lot of your time on this video, so I'll try to make it short. But yeah, I've been coming up with a new setup. I believe I've discussed this in the previous hangout. Basically, I'm trying to come up with a live setup that enables me to do what I want, like play loops, like play samples, but also play stuff live, you know, change things on the fly. But that is also not like a lot of gear together that I have to carry around. I want it to be simple, not very complex, but still do the things that I want for my particular way, the vision that I have for my life set, right? I think I've come up with a good idea, and actually I've practiced it. You know, I used the Sweet Dreams video to kind of like a practice of how it would work, and I think it worked really well. Basically, the main things would be the Digitac, also the circuit tracks, right? And they kind of like do the same thing. Like, they can sequence external things. They sequence external synths, for example. They have their own drums. So when you think about it, they kind of do the same thing. So why would I use them together? Well, because they can do the same things, I can do something close to a DJ set. And maybe that's weird if I'm talking about doing live music, you know, mixing different parts live and everything. What does that have to do with a DJ? Don't you want to kind of go away from a DJ thing? And I'll explain. It's basically, imagine this. The things with DJs is that they're mixing different tracks, and you clearly note that there are two different tracks playing together. And in a Dawless environment, usually, you know, for example, you have the songs here and you work with patterns. Patterns are like, for example, 4-bar loops that are constantly working on, and they repeat, right? And then you have to change between these loops in order to make different parts of the song. The thing is, if you have, like, for example, you can have like banks of these loops on this machine, and that's all fine and dandy. Each can have different instruments, different drums, different synth patches, you know, different types of sounds, right? The thing is, if you switch from one pattern to other, if they have completely different sounds, what's going to happen is that the change will be very jarring to whoever's listening, right? So it's basically like you stop one song and went right to the other, and that's jarring, right? right? Even if it's at the same tempo, it usually doesn't work. You have to have some kind of transition between these two patterns to make it smooth, just like a DJ would do, right? The thing is, if you only have one machine, that it's really hard to do this transition unless you go into like creating specific patterns to kind of mesh the two sounds together, and then you need to remember where you put these patterns to make these transitions. That's a mess. I don't want to deal with that, right? What I want is to be able to have the drums, for example, separated from everything else on the track. And that's exactly what I did here. So if you think about it, like the drums are one of the main things that you can distinguish between tracks. And you can either change tunes, change the body and leave the drums. And that kind of creates the effect of a DJ mixing two tracks together, but there's the consistency of the drums, right? Or you can change the drums and that signifies a changing track because the kick changes and that can be perceived by the audience. I hope I'm not completely screwing this up. I hope I'm not completely confusing you with all of this, right? But what I really want to do is have most things here, like the skeleton of the track here. So that means the bass, the voice samples, any kind of chords, the main synth, the elements, most of the elements that make up a song will be on the Digitakt. But the drums and only the drums will be on the circuit track. And this is really cool because it enables me to control each part separately. This is perfect because, for example, if I want to do a transition from one song from the other using the Digitakt, I would mute the drums. I could high pass them using this. This is really helpful. It's like a filter. It's right here. So it's really useful to kind of like high pass the drums or low pass it or completely kill them really quickly, which is something that if you're mixing things live, you need to have a filter or some kind of way to kind of attenuate the parts easily. And this is it. You can either break down the drums, like if you have like a kick, a snare, and usually a hat playing, you can mute the different parts, kind of break it down to signify that you're going to change something, and then mute it all together, and then just change them. I have other projects here, let's call it groups of drums in this case, and then I would just select another one. It would move there without you as the listener taking notice, and then just bringing them back. And then I can change the things here, mute all the different parts together on the Digitakt, and it would smoothly change between one pattern to the other. Another thing that it enables me to do is basically, if I want to change the drums live or create them live, I can edit the patterns, I can edit the sequence to make it sound different. So I can do some live touch-ups, change the rhythm a little bit. I can add effects to it. All of this together, it enables me to have the freedom that I want for a live thing. I still need to create like a bunch of songs on a Digitakt to kind of like to put this idea in actual practice. The Sweet Dreams, it was a good first try, but I want to test this, like changing from actual songs. But I think in theory, it'll work like really nicely. And now the only problem that I have is that the circuit tracks, it only has 4 slots for drums. That's not ideal. So I'm thinking of buying the circuit rhythm, which has like 8 sample slots, which can be drums or whatever, but has the same functionality as this. We'll see about that. But yeah, when I try it, I'll post about it. And yeah, in the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you have anything that you would like me to discuss, just, feel free to add in the comments. Yeah, just keep producing, share the love, share the knowledge, as Ricky Tinus would say. Have a good one.